Welcome to this week's edition of the Belau Report. I'm Jane Belau, and the elections are coming up. Tonight we have two candidates for a hard-fought race for Olmsted County Sheriff. The bottom line is that they will protect the people of Olmsted County and their persons, their property, and we have two very fine candidates. Our first one, they flipped a coin, by the way, and Kevin Torgerson won, and Captain Torgerson is our first candidate.
Hi, Jane. Thank you for having me here.
First question is easy. Why would you want to be the sheriff?
Well, there's really three parts to it. Number one is there's a lot of opportunities that are coming up in the coming years and months that are ahead of us, and it really came to a point as we talked about it and evaluated the decision that Olmsted County and the communities of Olmsted County needed experienced law enforcement leadership. And the first part is my continuous service. I've been in law enforcement since 1980. Grew up in southeast Minnesota. Was a dairy farm kid outside of Kenyon, and now live in Stewartville. And it's really important that as we move forward, that we understand where we've been with law enforcement in Olmsted County, and it's really important that there's a vision that we move forward with. The second piece is community service and being involved in the community. A former sheriff of ours asked us many years ago to be involved in the community, and that's something that I've been telling a lot of people as we've been talking to folks all around is I want to see our sheriff's office be more in the community, not just of the community. We're out there and we're doing things that are expected of us, but there's much more that we can do. And with the amount of activities that I've been involved with, both on and off duty, has really led me to have a values and vision that can lead Olmsted County and the Sheriff's Office forward.
Okay, what would be your primary goal as sheriff?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's something I've been answering quite readily. Number one, we've been missing a chief deputy in our office since earlier this year. We need a chief deputy. That individual is really important to our office. They're like the business manager. They track discipline, they track policies, and most importantly, they really watch the budget on a day-to-day basis. The sheriff's responsibility is to see and oversee all of those things, not only in the law enforcement side, but the detention center side. But the chief deputy really helps pull a lot of those things together as well. And we need to replace or name that person and get that person working as soon as possible.
And your background and qualifications?
Yep, background, kind of alluded to a little bit of that before. In 1980, I started working with the Incumbent County Sheriff's Office out of Minneapolis. While there, I worked in the detention division. At that time, we called it the jail. And then I also worked as a dispatcher for the western suburbs of Minneapolis and Hennepin County. Then in 1986, we moved here and transferred to Olmsted County. And I've basically worked in every division and served or led every division in our office that's humanly possible. And I smile when I say that because the only place that I have not served or been actively involved is as a canine officer or as a canine. I can't do that, but I've helped out. I've been involved in a lot of demonstration with our canines. So again, it goes back to continuous law enforcement service. I've been in law enforcement since 1980, since 1986 here locally with Olmsted County, and being a part of that every step of the way through the changes that evolved after Columbine happened greatly affected our office and how we do things, both interacting with the Rochester Police Department, our state patrol that's in this area. And then we had 9/11. 9/11 really made a lot of things change, as we all know. It changed our lives tremendously, and we'll never be the same since then. And at that same time, 2 months after 9/11, I was transferred into our training division and really took on a lot of changes in training and outfitting our officers, and really looking at how we do things in a bigger way. And then also interacting with our community was really big at that time too.
And why don't you tell just a little bit about you have a long list of community activities, about some of those activities.
Sure. I think the one that most people here locally are familiar with is my involvement with the Special Olympics and the Law Enforcement Torch Run. Law Enforcement Torch Run is a grassroots effort that is worldwide, and it really starts right here in Olmsted County, where we've done Cop on Tops, Tip of Cops. There's a new Tip of Cop coming next spring we're very excited about. But the big one is that people know the most is the Polar Bear Plunge. And we'll be holding our Polar Bear Plunge again next February, where we have raised here in Olmsted County alone almost $1.5 million in the years that we've been holding the plunge. And we're very excited. Just recently, the state of Minnesota was named the #1 program for raising funds for Special Olympics internationally. That's over other countries and all the states across the state of Minnesota. The other activity that I think really needs to be talked about and understood is my involvement with the statewide organization called the Law Enforcement Memorial Association. We call it LEMA. With LEMA, I started with the original group of 16 officers in 1991 and have continuously been a part of that organization for 23 years. When LEMA gets involved, it's after an officer has been killed in the line of duty here in the state of Minnesota. And those officers on LEMA are called to assist and prepare not only the community, but the family of that fallen officer as well as that agency. In the last several years of that, I've been the commander of it, which means I'm in charge. So when an officer is killed in line of duty, like most recently up in Mendota Heights, they're calling me at this point in time as the commander, and we activate our team to go in and advise the chief in this case as to what they should be doing, what are some important steps that they need to be making, advise the family, the funeral home, the faith community that's involved, and the greater community, as well as pulling in all of the other things that happen with a law enforcement funeral. And this most recent one, we saw more than 5,000 officers attending and supporting that family and that agency. So those are the two, I think, that really signify my involvement and how they cross over into my day-to-day work experience too. There's a lot of things that we use in those two activities that transfer into how we conduct ourselves and support ourselves as we work on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, tell us about Homeland Security in Olmsted County. Are we secure?
Yeah, we're very secure, but it's something that we have to keep watch on. It's Homeland Security Emergency Management is where I am at this current time, my current assignment. And for the last 5 years, that's what I've been really focused on as my #1 responsibility. And one of the things that has really evolved in the last 5 years, when I took over that office, we were a joint program between Olmsted County and the city of Rochester. And in that time, at the time I started, there was some flux, there was some issues going on, certainly between the county and the city, that needed to be, I guess the best word is fixed. And I'm really excited to say, and we've been talking about it quite a bit in the last several years, that a lot of great things are happening. We encourage the city of Rochester to develop an emergency management department, and they're focused now in the fire department with this city, as well as asking the small cities in Olmsted County to look at their emergency management and be prepared for that bad day. So that's what we do. We look at the secure needs and the infrastructure, critical infrastructure issues that are facing Olmsted County, as well as the cities, and then assist the city of Rochester in every way possible to make sure that we are the most prepared that we possibly can be, and continually challenge ourselves with the emergency plans that we have, and try to make sure that not only the government organizations are working together, but the government is working with the community, the businesses. The Mayo Clinic is very involved in a lot of that we do. Numerous other companies are involved with what we do, as well as our volunteer organizations like Salvation Army and Red Cross, and there's so many folks that are involved there. And pulling the strings and pulling that all together is a full-time job, and very proud to have been a part of that.
Okay, city-county cooperation.
Sure.
Comments.
Well, it takes two. That's really the involvement there. And one of the things that we talk about with emergency management regularly is we have to know each other. We have to be familiar with each other. It's not something that when a tornado comes through the county, and affects the city that we start to know each other at that time. And the cooperation that's necessary so that the city knows what the county can be responsible for, and the county knows what the city's responsible for, and where they need help and where they need support. We have to be talking about that on a regular basis, not just once a month, but on a daily basis. We have to be looking at ways we can support each other, not just to see who's got the bigger toys and who's got the most money. It's about how can we help each other, and that's something that through my emergency management experience has really been a focus of ours for the last several years.
Speaking of the biggest toys, did the Sheriff's Department get any of the militarization equipment?
Yes, we did, and there's been a lot of talk about that in the community, and ultimately it's about public safety. It's about having the officers, first of all, to be safe in being able to go in and support the community that needs to be safe and is asking to be aided in protecting their property, like you said early on when we first started, and preserving life. Preserving life is our #1 goal, and some of the equipment that we've been able to attain through the military disbursement has allowed us to feel very comfortable in where we are. There's boundaries that we have to be careful of, and I'm very in tune to those boundaries. Again, it's the emergency management experience and my continuous law enforcement experience from the time of Columbine and all those other events that have happened, where we have to be able to gauge where are we and how are we doing and what equipment is best needed for this and what's not. I think one of the other issues, you mentioned that most recent development with Ferguson and state of Missouri is, again, it goes back to community involvement and engagement, using our faith communities to support us in some of the efforts that we have, and using our neighborhood groups and our neighborhood organizations and our small cities to help us help them. And it's a complete two-way street. It sounds cliche, but it's very true.
One last question before I go to give you a closing statement.
Okay.
All over the country, police departments and sheriff's departments are becoming criticized for not having their force represent the population of the community, and that means more people of color and representing different groups. How's the sheriff department doing there?
Well, it's challenging to some degree because the state of Minnesota has an organization called the POST Board, Police Officer Standards and Trainings Board, and that requires at the very earliest, an officer has a high school education and then a 2-year degree in law enforcement or some form of criminal justice studies. Then they have to go to what we call the post-board skills program, which is they're learning the law enforcement skills. Some of these students, as they come out, as I was, had never shot a gun, had never wrestled or fought anyone. I wrestled in high school and college, but not in that capacity where you're actually trying to take someone under control and put them in jail. So they learn those skills, and that's the first level of, in essence, in some people look at it as a place that is a hurdle for people to pass. However, there's a lot of things that can be done, I think, in our community to encourage diversity, to encourage minorities to be involved in law enforcement. When I was in training, we actually did some recruiting. I went to colleges and I went to a lot of activities here at RCTC as well as our high schools. And we can do a lot more with that. There's no question we can. I'm really looking forward to that.
A 2-minute closing statement.
Sure.
You can say, vote for me, or glad to be, whatever you'd like.
Yeah, thanks, Jane, and thank you. And I hope you vote November 4th for Olmsted County Sheriff. And I'd like to be that next candidate, or the next Olmsted County Sheriff. There's 3 things, again, and I talked about them before, and I just want to leave you with those. Number 1, it's continuous law enforcement experience. The potential that we have before us in the next months and years to come is great, and experienced law enforcement continuous leadership is very important at this point in time. Community service, again, is a second piece that the sheriff needs to be in the community, not just of the community, but in the community, and being able to be someone that is reachable, not just at his office or on his phone, but in the community at events and activities. And I'll be there. I've been there, and I'll continue doing that. It's just the way I am. It's not going to change. And the last piece is values and vision. Those first two pieces, continuous law enforcement experience and community involvement, lead to my values and vision, and that vision for Olmsted County. And with that value, the vision I have, it has already been proven that I can lead people and lead them to excel in whatever they do. And I hope to be your next Olmsted County Sheriff. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin Torgerson. And to our viewers, we'll be right back with the other candidate for Sheriff of Olmsted County, Dave Mueller. Dave Mueller is the current Olmsted County Sheriff, and we welcome you and ask you the first question, and that is, why are you running for re-election?
Thank you, Jane, for allowing me to be here to begin with. Why I'm running for re-election is I was an elected official that wanted to make sure that when he was elected, he actually did what he promised he would do. And I've really worked very hard to do those things and accomplish the things that were important to the electorate, important to me when I ran for election in 2010. A few of those things, we had 4 real platform items that were there. One was really trying to make sure that we were preparing our officers to be the best they could be. And that was done through a few different aspects. One, through their own personal fitness, through random drug testing. We also wanted to make sure that we were doing our job in regards to collaborating with other agencies, law enforcement agencies and beyond. And we took a number of steps to address those issues as well. And we're working very closely with the City of Rochester and our surrounding counties in regards to collaborative efforts. We right now have a high-tech lab that's being developed for high-tech and forensic investigations. And that's another one of those areas that I'm pleased about and proud of. There are many aspects of our business that have been a part of trying to address needs that the community has found that they're experiencing. And we're trying to make sure that we're doing and dealing with each one of those specific challenges.
All right. What would be your primary goal for a second term?
Well, again, to build first on what we've already done. We certainly are an organization that has accomplished a number of things, but we certainly have much more to do. DMC, or the Destination Medical Community, will present new challenges, and that's an exciting situation for us as well. And we're already preparing our staff and already have prepared our staff to meet what the future is going to bring. But there's certainly going to be new challenges that come about with a growth in our population. About half of our business is inside the adult detention center. And with that comes significant potential again for growth in an area that really is not designed or built yet for a significant number of additional people. So that's going to be one of those areas. But again, from our standpoint, public safety is first and foremost. And so we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to prepare our officers to respond to the needs of our community. And again, making sure that our community is safe.
Your background and experience and qualifications for the job of sheriff.
Okay. Well, just a little bit about that. I started in 1981. At that time, Chuck Von Wald provided me the opportunity to be a deputy in Olmsted County. Early on in my career, I had some exposure to different areas of the sheriff's office, worked in civil and warrants. And pretty early again, I was a first-line supervisor, promoted to a first-line supervisor in 1988. And 3 years later, I was promoted to the captain of investigations. And I've had some great experiences and great opportunities to learn and be mentored as well in that process. And I certainly want to make sure that we're doing that for others. In addition to working as the investigative captain, I spent about 5 years in that role. And then I had an opportunity. I was asked by county administration to allow me, or asked if I would be a lateral, executive, a loaned executive from the sheriff's office and work in HR, or human resources. It was supposed to be a temporary assignment. Ultimately, that lasted about 3 years before they asked if I would be the human resources director for Olmsted County. That role provided me excellent opportunities to learn the big picture side of administration and working with numbers of people. And again, those are exciting opportunities and something that majority of sheriffs will never experience. In 2010, I was elected your sheriff and began that term in 2011. And every day since, I've worked very hard to make sure that I'm delivering the services needed for all of our citizens and residents that live in Olmsted County.
What's been your biggest challenge?
Well, I think there are several challenges. Certainly, some of the things that I wasn't necessarily expecting, but with some of the litigation, things that we experienced inside the Adult Detention Center. That was an area that, again, certainly we knew that there was always exposure inside of the Adult Detention Center and other areas, but that certainly became an area of potential concern in regards to making sure that we left ourselves as much as possible in a position not to repeat errors or mistakes of the past. And so we've taken steps in regards to making sure that litigation issues that we face because of potential either use of force or failure to meet well-being standards, Department of Corrections standards that were there are not going to be repeated. Other challenges, again, every challenge that we meet today to make sure that we're preparing our officers to be the best they can and to prepare them to meet the needs of our community have been challenges, but they're also the things that make the office exciting and rewarding.
And what part of the job do you like the best?
I'll share with you the best part of my job is I have an opportunity to have some impact on the rest of Olmsted County and in our world in trying to make sure that, if you will, our community is safer. Our citizens are able to go to work and live in a safe place, that there's a good likelihood that we're doing what we can to make sure that we're reducing and preventing crime, that we're doing what we can again to make sure accidents are reduced as well so that fewer injuries happen, so we don't have to go somewhere and provide bad news. On the same light, there's a lot of reward in trying to prepare for the future as well, and that's something I think we've done very well.
Okay. Well, the majority of our viewers are from the city of Rochester. We have 8 communities that also receive this program. City-county cooperation, how does that work? Good?
You know, I think we've been challenged at times with city and county cooperation, but I think we've really worked very hard over the last 4 years to do a number of things to enhance and bring about a sense of cooperation between city and county. I'll share a little bit of that. A number of years ago, the sheriff at the time, Steve Borkart, had an idea along with a couple of firefighters about bringing a public safety training center into Olmsted County and the southeast Minnesota. It took a long time for that to ultimately come to fruition, but over the last couple of years, we worked very hard to make that a reality today. And so today we're preparing individuals in the public safety area, both fire and police and other public safety officials, that they have a training center now that's been created and provides them an opportunity to learn and to practice, if you will, the things that they will need to make sure that they're providing excellent services for our community. We've done a little step, and it's a small step, but annually we had working with the department, with the DEA, if you will, the Drug Enforcement Administration, to have a drug take-back program. And that happened once a year, and we'd receive a number of drugs that came from medicine cabinets or from households in our community. And today we have a drug take-back box that's located inside the Adult Detention Center. And why that's important was that drugs today are still one of our major problems and challenges that we face. And diverting drugs, sometimes prescription drugs, is one of the largest challenges that we ultimately face. And if we can make sure that there's a place for those and that people can bring those to the law enforcement center or the jail to deposit those and get those now that they can't be diverted, that's another major plus that we've done. And that's been in cooperation with a a number of agencies, as well as the two law enforcement agencies, Olmsted County and the Rochester Police Department. Again, this high-tech forensic lab that we've created together is another one of those things that we've done extremely well, and I'm very pleased about. And again, we're sharing equipment, we're sharing resources, and ultimately that saves taxpayer dollars.
Two questions before we give you a closing statement.
Okay.
And one is the militarization of police and law enforcement agencies all across the country has raised lots of questions about whether this equipment is what generates the public response, or is it the attitude of the people who operate the equipment? Your thoughts on that?
Okay. Well, certainly I don't believe that it's the equipment that creates the problem. Certainly we have a responsibility to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that our community knows and is able to trust law enforcement. But we want to have appropriate equipment to make sure that when our deputies or police officers respond to an emergency, that they have the equipment necessary to do the job and that they can do that safely. And sometimes military equipment allows us to do that very well and protects officers, and it also protects citizens in a way that we can't deal with it in another way without some of those pieces of equipment. Again, our relationship with our community and the trust that we build with community members is what's going to be critical to make sure that we don't have something that occurs potentially in another community.
Okay, and one other question that's national in nature, and that is diversity in the workforce that reflects the populations of your community, the communities of your populations, I should say. And can we talk just briefly about that?
Yes. I think it's important for us to represent the community that we serve. And so the larger component of Olmsted County, do we have some work to do in that area? Yes, there's no question about that. Over the last 4 years, I've had an opportunity to increase our gender in the licensed side of the office, and certainly I've had opportunities to provide that same opportunities for employment for individuals, persons of color, as well as women in the workforce as well. We still need to do a number of things to improve in that area, certainly even to have a greater number of applicants that apply for our jobs. But I do think it's important for us to represent the community that we serve and do what we can to make sure that we're attracting those individuals into this line of work.
Okay, a closing 2-minute statement of your choice. You can say, vote for me, or I'm glad to be here. Go ahead.
I've had an opportunity to serve the citizens of Olmsted County for 33 years. Every day I've appreciated this opportunity since even being elected your sheriff just a little bit less than 4 years ago. This has been a rewarding and a wonderful opportunity, and I appreciate the privilege and honor that I've been able to have to serve you in this capacity. You can know that I will continue to do everything I can to make sure I deliver the best quality services that we can for you, and that I will do my part to actually build and continue to build relationships between ourselves and our community, ourselves and our rural, our other departments, both the City of Rochester and Olmsted and other counties as well. Again, I appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate the opportunity to continue to serve you for another 4 years. Thank you very much.
Sheriff Dave Mueller, thank you very much. And we thank your challenger, Kevin Torgerson, for being with us. And we urge you, the ladies and gentlemen in our viewing audience, to consider both candidates, and don't forget to vote in November. Thank you. Good night.